Yo, what's good? Welcome back. It is the second episode of the Respect Coin podcast. I'm super pumped to be doing this again. Shout out to everyone that showed love. I know I posted this on my social. We posted at CHSN. Tons of love. Man, I felt awesome hearing about it. We did have some winners last week. And as many people close to me know, I've been waiting to do this for a very long time. And like I said off the top last time, we will have guests working on that, working on a special guest for next week. So stay tuned on that front. But episode 2, Respect Coin podcast, a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. First, let's go back to last week. Let's do a little review. Our SGP for Bulls Bucks last week hit and the over cashed easily. I mean, I got a lot to talk about when it comes to the Bulls, but what a surprise they've been. Super tough. 2 comeback wins of 20 plus points. They surprised me so far. We also hit the Chet first basket. That was a couple days ahead. Dude's a monster. He's going to have a great year. He's going to be cashing lots of first baskets this year, so remember that name. Did have a good first week. Now, really looking forward to parlaying that into another good week of winning some money. So let's talk TNF. Texans Jets last night. And if you watched the first half of that game, you probably fell asleep. I took a little nap because I had to cover Blackhawks Sharks, which was a 9:40 p.m. Central Standard Time start. I don't even know why we do this. But I was up late, watched every single snap of this Texans-Jets game, and oh my God, was that first half horrible. If you are better, and if you are a crazy person who puts money on first touchdown scores all the way at the bottom of the list, and go all the way down to the plus 10,000s of the world, oh boy, you had yourself an angry night if you had money on Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley, man, they run the swing play to him, jet sweep type, and he drops the ball before he gets across the goal line. And we almost saw that last week as well. We've seen it throughout history. You can watch the highlights on YouTube. I never played football in pads, so I have no idea. Like, I'm racking my brain. Like, I am maybe one of the most excitable dudes when playing a sport. I'm always going to talk my talk. I'm always going to be loud. But bruh, like, celebrating a touchdown, and you just have to like cross the line, right? So the goal line has been the standard forever. So how many times are we going to So how many times are we going to watch people drop the ball before they cross the goal line, bro? I saw the homies at BR Betting posted. Someone sent in a ticket that they had Corley first touchdown at plus it's 100 to 1 and got smoked. My goodness. Malachi Corley, I mean, I don't even know what else he does, but that's a literally prime example of how not to respect coin. Or maybe he is a coin respecter, because I'm pretty sure there was only a handful of people that bet on him. So he kept like, if you're a Joe Mixon first touchdown better, you kind of love to see that mistake made last night. But game had everything, bunch of turnovers, bunch of fumbles, tons of sacks. CJ Stroud was a little bit banged up. He mentioned that, I heard on the broadcast, he mentioned that to Kirk Herbstreit. But the main takeaway of this game was, I think it was 70% or more of the public was all over the Texans. And obviously the Jets have been playing bad this year. Record doesn't tell the full story. I mean, it's still Aaron Rodgers, even though he looks like a different guy. And I'm very happy to see that because, whatever. I'm not trying to get this podcast ended for my thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, but it was a wacky game. But there were some highlights and there were some things of note. First of all, if you have Joe Mixon on your fantasy team, you're probably going to the playoffs because, damn, this guy has been balling this year. 24 attempts, 106 rushing yards, and a touchdown. I think he's done that in 5 of his last 6 games. And obviously, he missed some time after that hip drop tackle, but the dude looks more motivated than ever and absolutely balling. And, you know, 24, 106, and a touchdown, scoring touchdowns every week. We gave some love to Kyron Williams last week. Joe Mixon, a coin respecter, definitely, for sure. Garrett Wilson. I don't know who had parlays last night. I definitely had a few. Garrett Wilson was so incredibly quiet in that first half that you kind of thought this game was going to get away from the Jets. Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers not hooking up on plays that they probably run in their sleep. But guess who comes out and makes a name for themselves in the second half? It's Garrett Wilson. He finished the game with 9 catches for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns, and maybe one of the coolest touchdown catches we've seen since Odell Beckham reached back in that same building. So if you're a live bettor like I am, you know, I think it was 34 and a half or 39 and a half, and he had 9 yards, so he needed 30 yards in the second half, and he went flying past that and really was the reason why the Jets got the dub. I was on the Jets. I am always very reluctant to place money on Aaron Rodgers-led teams, but the numbers were the numbers. The public was too much over Houston. Super overreaction. I think the Jets have had bad luck, but I also think they do have some flaws. So it was a good spot to take the Jets. Shout out to Kev. Kev brought it up at the office yesterday. My first notion was like, maybe the Texans. Went and looked at the numbers, and it all pointed to the Jets. So we cashed last night. Got a little bit of cash to play with this weekend. So let's get into some previews. First, let's talk about the Bears. I'm not going to talk about the Hail Mary very much here. Actually, I'm not going to talk about it at all. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of all of it. Complete breakdown from many, many aspects. Tyreek Stevenson knows he can't be doing that. But what I want to see is how they respond. So the Bears head to Arizona. They are 1.5-point underdogs on the road. I think this is fair, and I think this is accurate. I also think it might be a little bit of an overreaction to last week's game. And how could you not, right? The Bears had a bye week to prepare for this really all-important game. The game gets flexed to CBS, so you got Romo and Nance on the call, and there's a lot of hype. Jaden Daniels' injury report was mum all week. He's, game time decision. He goes in, he plays, and everything happens the way it happens. The things that I need to talk about, I will get to in depth a little later when I discuss the coin disrespecter of the week. But this is an opportunity for the Bears to prove whether or not they are a good team, whether or not they are ready for the moment. I have some takes here. I don't know that they are, but I also am optimistic that it can't be as bad as it was last week. So let's take a look at some of the splits right now. I'm recording this on Friday. 58% of the money, so the sharps, and 53% of the public is on the Bears plus 1.5. Those aren't crazy splits. Those are pretty much even, which I do believe is fair for this week. I don't think the Bears have proven emphatically that they are going to be the team that beats up on teams they need to win against. So this is a wait and see spot. I'm not sure what they're going to look like. A lot of turmoil, a lot of players voicing their opinion in the locker room this week, and then a lot of backtracking and no accountability from the coaching staff. So we're going to see what this team's about. We're going to see what they're made of. We're going to see how they feel about the coaching staff, if they are behind them. And it is on the coaching staff to make a lot of adjustments this week. Kyler Murray has been playing really well this year. Arizona pretty banged up in various areas, including the secondary. But Trey McBride is a dog. He's their tight end. James Conner is always someone you have to game plan for. And they've got a bunch of receivers that have been patching this thing up. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been electric. So I don't know if, Jalen Johnson shadows him or how that's going to work. But the middle of the field is going to be an issue. McBride had a bunch of targets last week. Marvin Harrison Jr. can take the top off the defense. Michael Wilson, great possession receiver. They've got some weapons on offense. The difference here is the defense. The Cardinals defense is 27th in the league in total defense, which means they're pretty much the bottom of the barrel in both rushing defense and passing defense. Like I mentioned, their secondary it leaves a lot to be desired. Buda Baker is is someone that you recognize in that defensive backfield for years. I think he's a dog. I watched the Hard Knocks a couple years back, and he's someone that you root for, even if that's not your team. The dude can do it all. He puts his body on the line. So mad respect to Buda Baker. But outside of that, secondary is pretty rough. So if I can see that, and I never played, and I'm just using my computer and the data I can see here on the screen, I'm imagining that Shane Waldron and the offensive coaching staff have to be ready to exploit that. We've done it in the past with other bad teams, and I don't necessarily think the Cardinals are a bad team. I do think that their defense is vulnerable. So let's see what they do. In terms of that defense and what it does for the over-under, I believe, is set 45.5. Let me double check that really quick because I'm really, really certain that this game is going to go one of two ways. It's going to be an all-out shootout, or we're going to have like a Big Ten style rock fest, and that will be because the Bears don't move the ball. So the over-under is 44.5. 66% of the public is on the over, but 54% of the sharps are on the under. So take that how you will. I personally feel like the over is the better play. Again, betting unders is really tough. But if you bet the under last week, you cashed easily. I think it was 12-0 at halftime. I like the over. I think we're going to see some fireworks. And I also think because some of the decisions we're probably going to have in the defensive backfield around Tyreek Stevenson, he might not start. I don't know if that puts him out for a quarter or a half or however they want to handle it. Personally, I don't care. I think this guy has learned his lesson in the media and social media, and every time he opens his phone to go on X, he's seeing that still picture of him with his back turned. But the other reason is I saw the Bears injury report yesterday, and my goodness, I don't know who's going to play. And that also extends the offensive line. But one of the reasons why I'm worried about the Bears this week is this is a war of attrition. Both teams have injuries. Both teams have things that they're trying to work out. The Cardinals come in a little hotter than the Bears at this point, but this secondary is getting pretty thin, and their secondary is already thin. This feels like an overplay to me. I think there's going to be points scored in this game, and hopefully that leads to us winning lots of same-game parlays. I will give you my plays for Bears at the end. Let's switch gears quickly. The biggest surprise to me in Chicago, right now in Chicago sports, are the Chicago Bulls. I mean, say what you want about the offseason and, do we need to blow it up? Do we need to tank for Flag? I was worried from before the season that they weren't going to be bad enough to get into that lottery. And I'm starting to feel like that's going to be the case again, which is very typical Bulls. But I mean, for the sake of my job, it is going to be better if the Bulls are a better product on the field or on the court. But, this feels like maybe one of those once in a generation drafts with the talent coming out. So we might be stuck in the middle again, but after 5 games, the Bulls are 3-2. They've got 2 straight wins when they were down 20 points in that game. They've got that never say die mentality. You saw that a lot at the end of last season as well. Even with the emergence of Kobe White, who went back on my no bet list when I tried to double up on that giddy 2 threes play for the home opener, and he went 0 of 10 from 3. So Kobe White, you back where you're supposed to be. And that's all I'm going to say about that. The Bulls take on the Nets tonight. Again, recording this on Friday. It will be a 6:30 p.m. Central start I'm looking at some of the data, and 54% of the sharps, so the money that's on the Nets tonight, and 53% of the public is on the Bulls. None of this surprises me. The Bulls probably, especially locally, got to be one of the more public teams you could bet. I mean, Chicago sports in general. I mean, we definitely waste our money on a lot of these because we bet with our hearts and not our heads. Let me tell you why tonight's Bulls game is a stay away for me. From a Bulls fan perspective, this is a classic trap game. You just had 2 straight wins against teams where you were down 20 in the game. First time that's happened since 2001. All signs pointing to this team feeling like they're getting their rhythm. It was kind of like how I felt when the Bears went to London before they proved me wrong. You know, those games always felt like a letdown. You could basically say last week was very much a letdown for the Bears. You know, a lot of momentum going into that game, not knowing whether or not Jaden Daniels is going to play. A lot of bets being placed on the Bears to win. And then you have that Hail Mary, which rips your heart out. So for the Bulls specifically, I'm staying away tonight. I also think a good rule of thumb for these games is to take the over. Both defenses probably not very well coached at this point. Maybe well coached is unfair. I mean, I don't think that there's much buy-in on either team's side to keep a team under 100 points, 110 points. Although the Bulls were able to do it against the Magic because they both contributed to one of the worst fourth quarters in history. I don't think a field goal was scored in like 8 minutes of actual game time in that fourth quarter. So if I'm playing anything tonight, it'll be the over. I'll root for points. There are some bucket getters in this game. Status of Zach LaVine after kind of dinging up his shoulder is very much unknown. So we'll have to see who's out there, who's going to be out there making plays. And I do have a little SGP for the game that I will give out a little later as well. So if you're looking at betting the Bulls, they are plus 1.5. If you're putting them in a parlay, you are going to get plus money there. But for me, I'm staying away. This feels like a classic trap. And the over feels like good money because I don't think very much defense is going to be played in tonight's Bulls game. All right, let's move on to my favorite part of each week where I get to tell you the coin disrespecters and the coin respecters of the world. And first, let me drink some water because I might raise my voice here. I hope I don't wake anyone up in the house. But the coin disrespecter of the week goes to none other than your offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, Mr. Shane Waldron. The reason why I find myself upset on this Friday is because on a previous show, I did the Charter podcast, which you can listen to on the Chicago Sports Network each week. Alex Shapiro, Ruthie Polinsky, Edgar Perez, Clay Harbor, Kevin Lapka. We got a nice little rotation there, so make sure you check them out. I stepped in on that podcast, and I gave a lot of love to Shane Waldron after the middle parts of, this season because it kind of felt like he figured out what the Bears players wanted from him, what the fans wanted to see, kind of unlock Caleb Williams, get him out of the pocket, have him make plays that, only guys like him can make. And then I watched Sunday's game and I felt hoodwinked, led astray, bamboozled, all those buzzwords because, bro, what are we doing? What are we doing? 2 weeks to prepare for a Washington team that had vulnerabilities in the secondary. And very clearly we had the wrong game plan. I don't know what the play calls were in terms of, getting Caleb Williams going. I think our starts to games have been horrendous. And if you're asking why Shane Waldron, falls into the category of coin disrespecter, is because Bears fans and people around the country betting the Bears would like to see them get off to a fast start. And you have so many weapons on this team. You have DJ Moore, who had, I mean, I can't even tell you how many yards he had because it's that few. And I think Caleb Williams threw for less than 100 yards in the game. Like, that should never happen in the modern NFL. I don't care how much they're blitzing you, like, make an adjustment. So, yeah, Shane Waldron, the coin disrespecter of the week, and especially for these two reasons. Could you imagine a guy like DeAndre Swift, who was under fire after the first couple weeks of the season, people calling him a bust, people saying we wasted money, signing him, and then he starts to prove everybody wrong. He's putting together really, really good games on the ground and being one of the reasons why the Bears were able to stay in that game against the Commanders. This guy starts to go off. He gets you all the way down to the goal line, and you decide that you want to hand the ball to Doug Kramer, who's never run the ball in his life and has now become a de facto fullback. Like, in what world is that smart? You run that play at Soldier Field when you're up by 22 against a bad Panthers team if you want to run the gadget plays. Like, let's be serious. That is not a good play call. And the thing that makes me most mad and why he's on this list and I'm talking about him so much is because he went in front of the media and said he would call that play again. Like, I don't understand that. Like, if you went to the bar and somebody bought you a shot and you took the shot and you immediately threw up, do you think that you would go back and say, all right, let me try that again? Because I don't think that was a bad call. And I don't think this was a bad idea or a bad decision in theory. So let me try again. Hell no. You're never going to do that. Never going to do that. The last time I drank Rumplemints was like 15 years ago because I threw up everywhere after I took it. And now I don't drink it anymore. So I don't know. It's just a matter of accountability. So Shane Waldron, you are on the coin disrespector list until further notice. An honorable mention, I'm sure somebody listening to this show had Drake London, 5 catches in a parlay or 50 yards. And let me tell you that he started off this game with one of the worst drops I've ever seen for a wide receiver who's got over 500 yards this season. And not only did he end with 4 catches, he ended with 34 yards. He did not score a touchdown in a game where his quarterback threw for 4. So Drake London, honorable mention, disrespecter of coin. All right, let's have some fun now and talk about those who do respect coin. And did you guys cash in on National Tight Ends Day? Because I certainly did. My goodness. This holiday, for those who don't know, was made up by our coin respecter of the week, and his name is none other than George Kittle. Goodness gracious, what a guy. This guy respects coin so much that he went over his receptions total. He blasted through his receiving yards total, and he scored a touchdown on his holiday. That's how you respect coin. The fun part about the Kittle story is we had a bunch of tight ends score in the first wave of games. And as you put together your parlays, I don't know if you're like me. Sometimes I like to put some together where the last leg resolves on Sunday Night Football. I usually don't like to go into Monday because I want to have some money in my account for the Monday Night Football game. So, we had Travis Kelce score in the 3:00 window. That was awesome. His first touchdown of the year. I know he was on a lot of people's tickets. And to that same regard, George Kittle was on many tickets. He had to be last week. It's his holiday. He made it up. And it was kind of a controversial call there. Looked like they might take the touchdown back. They didn't. It stood. So George Kittle, salute to you. One of the people who, if I had, a chance to have a beer with anyone, George Kittle's on that list. If you watched Receiver on Netflix, you'll know what I mean. Dude likes to get after it, and I respect that. So, George Kittle, you are the episode 2 coin respecter of the week. All right, let's wrap up. Got some weekend plays, as I mentioned. First and foremost, I will go back to this Bulls game. I got an SGP for you. It is plus money. I think it's plus 102. Cam Thomas to score 20 points. Vooch to have 8 rebounds, and running back Josh Giddey to have 4 assists, plus 102, plus money. Reasons why I like this: first of all, Cam Thomas, certified bucket getter, volume shooter, streaky. I don't think our defense is going to have much for him, especially from the guard position. I think it probably gets to a point where he's doing whatever he wants, and Patrick Williams may have to switch off of a Cam Thomas to come check up with Cam Johnson, sorry, and then switch to Cam Thomas. So 20 points feels easy, could happen in one half. One of the bright spots for the Bulls this year has been Nikola Vucevic. A lot of people said he probably doesn't fit with what Billy Donovan wants to do. And then all of a sudden, he starts making threes again. But we're not going to talk points as it pertains to Vooch tonight. 8 rebounds is the play in the SGP because the dude has been a vacuum, always been reliable on the glass, has had multiple games of 10, 12, 13. I even saw a 24 rebound game in there for Vooch against the Nets in his career. So this feels like good money. And Josh Giddey has not led us astray yet. 4 assists feels small. He had a bunch of assists in the last few games. He's been kind of doing it all, scoring, showing he can knock down the three. So people have to respect that a little more. And I do think 4 assists is probably free. So to recap, Cam Thomas, 20 plus points. Vooch, 8 plus rebounds. Giddey, 4 plus assists, plus 102. Bet it at FanDuel. And let's move on to the Bears. The Bears. Please don't let us down. Another 3 o'clock game playing out west. I hope nobody in their right mind allowed any of these dudes to get anywhere near Scottsdale. It is one of my favorite places in the entire world. And I know what kind of vortex that place can be. So keep them in the hotel because we need to win. I'm not going to be taking the Bears money line. I will be taking the spread plus 1.5, hoping to see the numbers move in my direction. I will double down if it does. But, public money normally always comes in on the Bears as we get closer to Sundays. So if you like it and you want the hook, take it now. Take it as soon as you hear this, because I do fear that by the time we get to Sunday, it might be closer to a -1 or a +1 or a half. It could be pretty much a pick 'em. So I like Bears plus 1.5. I will be betting the over as well. And in terms of an SGP, one thing I know, and I touched on it earlier, DeAndre Swift has been balling. I'm expecting at least 50 rush yards for him. Like I mentioned, the Cardinals' rush total defense as it pertains to rushing, not very good. I do think he's going to get a lot of carries this week. I think we're going to have to do a lot of play action as well. And if we do, the person that is going to get fed this week is DJ Moore. I don't even want to look up what he had last week because it was that insignificant. But the last time we had this discourse about DJ Moore not getting involved, he balled the next game. I think one of the things that I do respect about what the Bears are doing is they have made adjustments decently well. This week feels like they need to make the biggest adjustments. And I'm not a big fan of calling games must win, but it's pretty damn close if you want to be in this discussion for playoffs, especially how the NFC North is going right now. So for the SGP, doing DeAndre Swift, 50 rush yards, DJ Moore, 50 receiving yards, also plus money. You can get that on DraftKings. That's where I bet it. And for our sneak nuke, it's not that crazy, but I'm going to take the DJ Moore touchdown. You're probably thinking, why is that a sneak nuke? You never know with touchdowns, especially with this Bears team. Anyone who watches the Bears knows that, sometimes it's Keenan Allen, sometimes it's Cole Kmet, sometimes it's Rome Odunze. They have a lot of weapons, which is a champagne problem. But I do think DJ Moore is going to be a major emphasis this week. They have been getting him involved in the backfield and, throwing screens to him, all that good stuff. I hope that he doesn't get crushed on one of these bubble screens, but if they just let him work down the field, let him do his thing, throw him some jump balls like we did against the Panthers, I think that's kind of what we'll see this week. So, like I said, DeAndre Swift, 50 rush yards, DJ Moore, 50 receiving yards, and I'm going to sneak nuke the anytime touchdown. Hopefully it cashes in the first half, and we are set and good to go. Okay, y'all. Episode 2 is under our belt. It's in the books. We've got some bets for this week. We have the Bulls SGP, Cam Thomas 20 points, Vooch 8 rebounds, Giddey 4 assists. We have the Bears SGP, DJ Moore 50 receiving yards, DeAndre Swift 50 rush yards, sneak nuking DJ Moore to score a touchdown, taking Bears plus 1.5, staying away from the Bulls game. Tons of good sports to watch this weekend. Hit me up on socials. Let me know what you're betting. Share any tickets you have. Let me know what you guys are on. And let's have another winning week as we try to respect coin. And shout out to everyone that showed love. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for liking. Thank you for rating. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate it more than y'all know. Let's get some money, man. There's a lot of games to watch, a lot of fun to have. I'm going to be inside. I am not going back outside watching the Bears for a little while. I'm too hurt. But I can win money from my couch. And let's respect some coin this weekend.